All right, everyone. So this is a photo. This is not my truck, but this was an inspiration photo. So I kind of want to share what I had seen as a restored Dodge Power Wagon when I saw this one in shambles, and this is what inspired me. And fortunately enough, I ended up acquiring the same tires. So in some future episodes, I will share the details on how I got those, because those Michelins are discontinued in North America. Anyhow, take a look at the website that's noted below this photo and see if you can find that particular truck. They've got a breakdown of the restoration that they did. Anyhow, just wanted to share that with you so you had an idea of what I was thinking when I saw this vehicle. And having been a Dodge guy and growing up in a Dodge family since the day I was born, I thought this would be a really amazing project. So the other thing too is my son was born shortly after, and that's why now I'm 10 years in. And I really thought and imagined myself when I started this that my son, and now also my daughter, could help me on this restoration, and that I would be able to pass on some of the skills and things that I've learned mechanically along the way. And it's been very rewarding, so take you through some of the photos here. All right, so what you're looking at is the result of a classified ad, and what's really cool about this story is this is obviously it's not considered a power wagon, but was I believe an M43. It's the Canadian version of the communication truck. And so these were surplus somewhere around the 70s. And anyhow, you can see from the emblem on the door that it was owned by a drilling company. So the story with this is that I posted the classified ad, and now a customer, he had showed up at my place. I live in a small town. He showed up with these pictures, actual Kodak pictures. You know, he didn't have a smartphone, and they weren't as good there. But this was about 9 years ago, and 9 years ago, and he had this truck sitting there, and this truck was literally there. It sat there for almost 25, 30 years when he bought the property, and who knows how long it sat there before. But what it looks like is that this truck was somewhere exploring in that area, which there was a lot of minerals, and it got left there and never made its way back to where it belongs. So after some lengthy, detailed work and with the paperwork, we got the paperwork, and we were able to pull the truck out, and just made for a really great story. And so I bought this truck. We negotiated, we bartered on it, but got the truck going. It was really, really solid. I mean, put air in the tires, we cut some trees away, and off it went. So after that, we got her loaded up, and I had a 12-volt winch here that we were using, and we pulled it up and hauled it away. So it was really a great story to this Power Wagon venture that I was on. It wasn't what I was looking for the parts, but I actually ended up stealing the rims and the tires off of it. What you see here is a photo of my son, and I actually ended up acquiring this Jeep. This Jeep was a 1942, so it was World War, and it was properly plated, and it was a numbers matching vehicle. I was not a Jeep guy, and many of you may be. Please post a comment below if you find this interesting. But this Jeep actually I ended up selling it to someone in Quebec, Canada, and they ended up doing a restoration. So if you're on here, please let me know how you made out with this. I know it was a long time ago. But so really neat how these things all come together. All right, what you're looking at here is the 1957 Dodge Power Wagon, or what it looked like the day that I went and looked at it. And I remember that day very vividly. I came across the truck. Well, when I got the inspiration, it was, I started asking, right? So you start talking to some of the old timers, you start talking to people about this truck, the old Dodge Power Wagon, and where have you seen one? They're usually sitting around in the back 40 somewhere, and they're tucked away in a barn. Or so in this particular case, actually was a helicopter pilot, and who flew over the area, and he says there's someone that has a bunch of old trucks, and he gave me the direction. Ended up happening that it just happened that it was only about 20 minutes away from my place, but there's so much bush and so much land here that it you wouldn't see it in driving by. And obviously, as you can tell from the pictures, there's no actual flat fenders on it. So, we call them the Dodge flat fender Dodge Power Wagons, but this one didn't have it. And I remember him saying that he had driven by and looked at some of these vehicles, and he says, oh, this thing was gone. There was nothing left. There was no doors. There was there was barely anything left. But I was like, well, let me know. How do I get there? And, I might still be interested. As we know, when you get the bug, you're willing to start with pretty much the bare bones. And at that time, 10 years ago, the truck was still not sought after as it is today. So, I could see why a guy would just pass up on it, because, you might find one with other parts. Because after I got this truck, I remember seeing many classified ads, actually, where I saw some more, and I was just like, oh boy, can I fill the garage up with any more? I'm kicking myself now for not buying them. They were, anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 or $5,000 a piece for almost complete trucks, and I just did not jump on them all. But anyways, that's here nor there at this point. But yeah, this is the way I saw the vehicle, and I remember going there, and I had joined Power Wagon Advertiser, the online forum, and I was learning a lot about the trucks, and that's when I was confused, because I saw this winch on the back, which you see in the picture here when it's on my trailer, but obviously it had a PTO still attached to the transmission, so it meant that it had that winch was likely on the front at one point on the truck. You can see on the following photo here of the bumper, it was literally a railway tie that had been welded to it. So anyways, I ended up getting hold of the owner, and turns out that the truck was used. The truck was originally purchased. This is through some digging that I found out that the truck was originally purchased for the highways department. So now it's up in Canada. It wasn't a Fargo. It was a Power Wagon. So maybe some of you might know whether that Fargo, did they make the Dodge Fargo Power Wagon until a certain date period, and then they stopped and they called them all Dodge Power Wagons? I'm not too sure. I do know that the Fargos were they were a Canadian made truck, so that's why I'm surprised, because this was definitely issued to a government entity. It was yellow from the factory, and then I'll share some other details as we go along here, but there was obviously evidence that it had been built for a specific owner. Anyways, this truck basically retired in the field. It was used on a farm. Its last years were in the 80s. It was used on a farm to push bales around, those big, massive bales that are used for feed, and that's where it stayed. The photo here you see with the winch on the back, and actually it was used as a skidder too, to skid logs out of the bush. And so that was interesting, because this led me to meeting someone when I had it parked in my driveway who drove by and said, "Hey, is that a Dodge Power Wagon?" And literally, I mean, it sat the same way that it sat. And he said to me, "I used to drive one of those in the late 70s. We would skid logs in the bush." And I said, "Oh yeah? What's the details?" And so we sat down, and as he looked at the truck, he chatted and said, "Yep, door's missing, that's right." And that's when he caught my attention, and I said, what's the story? He's like, "Well, I remember using this exact truck to skid the logs out, and getting in and out of the cab was such a pain in the butt that we tore the door off. We knocked the pins out and we took it off." So what a coincidence that was. Anyways, reaches out to me a couple days later. He says, "You know what? I think I know where the door is." This was the driver's side door. I said, "What?" He says, "Yeah, I think I remember where we put that door." So he said, "Get a couple coffees and we're going to head out Saturday morning." So the long story short of it is, and I wish I would have taken pictures, and I'll got the picture of the door here. We literally drove out off the highway, hiked in, and lo and behold, there in the bush, right where they had taken it off, was sitting on a rock. So it was perfectly perched up from the wet ground. It was on the crown of the rock, so the moisture always kept it away. The door was sitting there, fully intact, in the condition that you see it in this photo. And I think this is probably one of my most favorite photos, or favorite discoveries in building this truck. So I ended up getting the door, and from him, and because he remembered where it was. So really cool story, and that's what, like I said, what these are all about for me. It's the stories that go along with them and finding out some of the history. And the really neat thing about this door and why I determined it was government issued is because the government would always print on their plates or on the inside of the doors the details. Obviously, this was not done by the dealer, but whatever department, the highways department, as you can see, stamped in some aluminum and then screwed it into the door plate, the inside door plate, and there was all the details: the original serial number, the engine serial number, the paint code, the owner's manual, the driver's manual. I mean, it was all there. So it was all encapsulated right there in that door. So I thought it was a really neat find, and added to the nostalgia of this Power Wagon, and kind of where it came from. So this is the beginning of the restoration. So I hope you've enjoyed some of these details. I'm going to get into part 2 of this kind of photo voiceover. And again, I appreciate everybody's comments. Please hit subscribe if you want to see some more. Hit the notification, so as soon as I post something every week, I'm going to have regular content to where I'm at today. And really the motivation to finish this off is so that my son and I and my daughter, we can enjoy the truck, but I can also share with you some of the tips, some of the tricks and things that I've learned along the way. Anyways, this is Resto Rays out for now, and we will talk to you soon.